Hi, nobodies. So, I'm looking at myself and thinking, no. I mean, I'm having a fairly good day, but some days, my hair, I just hate it. It looks like I've got to die pretty soon. Um, Lovely things about age. I remember there was a movie I watched one time. I watched part of it, and this was before the internet was real big. It was my age. Um, I was I was having to go to work and I had started watching this movie and I was like, man, this movie is cool. Have no clue what it was. And I never got to watch the end of it, but it was about they had figured out a way, like a vaccine to stop aging. So you could be 100 years old and look like you were 30 if you wanted, whatever age you wanted to look, where you wanted to stop it. But the problem was the vaccine turned some people feral, and they kept these ferals kept attacking the towns of people that were young. But I can't remember what it was. I mean, I have searched and searched and searched trying to figure out what that movie was. It it was a B flick, I'm sure, but it it didn't require a whole lot of special effects or anything. And it wasn't like Mad Max because I know that one. Um, it was on TV one time, and like I said, this was back before, even when you had cable, you didn't have like a guide to where you could just press it and see what was on. You had to have like a TV guide, the paper thing. And of course, we never had that. My parents were like, I mean, we get the one in the newspaper, and that was normally missing around my house. I don't think anybody used it anyway, really. And then a lot of times, like when you look at the thing, Fox or the CW, which wasn't the CW then, but Fox and the CW would would a lot of times play something different than what they had scheduled. So you could look and say, "Oh, that's Universal Soldier," but it's not. So I hate getting old, but I never saw myself getting here. I mean, when I was 20, I mean, I remember being, I guess I was 16, and they said, "Where will you be in the year 2000?" And I imagined myself dead. I really did. And did a lot of things that maybe I should have been dead. But I made it through a couple of times. um, so my husband is seriously anti-Trump. Like I'm anti-Trump, but I don't think of people who like Trump as like racist, woman hating assholes. I don't think of them like that because I know that in every group there's always the other person. And I was like, dude, you cannot think in terms of black and white. There's black and white thinking, everything's good or everything's bad. People live most of their life in the gray area, not black and white. How they feel about things, just because a person is hanging out, like say you are at a diner eating, and two of the people you're with are in the KKK, and they're white, and you're white. If people knew those two are the KKK, to assume you are the KKK as well would be wrong, because they don't know for sure just because of the company you keep. And the same goes with like people who support Trump. I know not all of them are racist, um, but all of the Trump supporters that I know personally are. And so he knows the same people I do, and he's like, well, they're all racist, and I'm like, no, you cannot say that. Just like you can't say they're all women haters because some of them are women. So you can't call people out like that. You really got to look for, I'm always looking for, with somebody, I give them respect. I'm never going to be so closed minded that I won't hear somebody's point of view. I'm never going to be like, I know I'm right and you can't change my mind. Except when it comes to like somebody wanting me to convert back to Christianity. It's like if I choose to do it, it's going to be because I want to, not because you're trying to make me. Because I mean, I will dig in my heels when somebody's like, "You're wrong. You're completely wrong," and I'm not going to stop until you see my reasoning. That that is when I will close my mind, because the way I see it, I want to discuss things with people who are willing to listen to my point of view, weigh it, and say, I agree, or it's an interesting perspective. I disagree though, you know. And I mean, I'm cool with like debates, even, like I will debate with these people. I'll say, well, explain this, explain that, and I'm because I mean, if you stop listening to people, if you think that you are right in every way, shape, or form, if you dispute every bit of evidence that you don't like, you stop growing mentally. You know, you don't have to like the guy to be behind him, which was another point I made with my husband, was a person doesn't have to like him to vote for him. They might just be voting for the Republican Party. You know, they may not care who's running. It could be Mr. Tally from South Park or Mr. Pooh. If he's the Republican candidate, they're going to vote for him. They may not like him. They may think he's a pig, but that's their party and they support their party. I don't do that. I mean, I don't always vote liberal. I mean, I'm sorry, not liberal, libertarian. I don't always vote libertarian. I research the person. And if I don't like what they stand for, like if I feel that they're too far right or too far left, I might be like, this isn't the person that I really want representing me in this office. And it's not about like if he had PP tapes, I don't care. I'm I'm a grown woman. I've lived my whole life around dudes, and I know that there's a lot of different kinds of kink, and I don't care if you're a sadist in the bedroom, as long as the people you're with are consenting and legal to consent, that's your business. That has nothing to do with you representing me. But when you act dumber than Bubba down the street, I wouldn't want Bubba to represent my interests for anything. Hell, I don't want people to know I know Bubba, for the most part. There is no Bubba, but you know what I'm saying. There's always somebody that you don't really want people to know that you know, because you're like, well, they're going to think less of me because he's a real punk ass. But you talk to him because, hey, he's a human fucking being. Everybody deserves basic decency, which is if they're talking to you, you talk to them. If they're not being rude to you, you don't get rude to them. If they're having a polite conversation, you react in kind. You don't let shit that is that person get in the way of being civil. And I feel the same way about, I've got a friend in Nigeria who is trying to have this musical career, and he's upset because, he's found like talent competitions in the US and in the UK, but you have to be a citizen to apply, and he's in Nigeria, and there's so much shit he's got to do to be able to come here, and the opportunities aren't really there, so on and so forth. And I'm like, this is the land of opportunity. We don't have to, he shouldn't have to jump through hoops just to enter a competition. And and he shouldn't be treated like an immigrant, because he's another human being. It doesn't matter where he's born, where he's going to live. You have to look at a person based on their merits. If they're talking nicely to you, you talk nicely to them. Do I think you're safe by yourself with people? You're not safe with Americans by yourself sometimes. I mean, you're liable to find rapists and murderers in every single society that exists. And it's been that way since the beginning of time. So, when Trump originally said that all of the immigrants flooding in through the border wall were rapists and murderers, it's like, dude, you can't make a statement like that. Because it's not like it's part of their culture that's okay. It's not part of any culture that's okay. Terrorists might say it's okay. Like it's okay if you go in there and you rape a few women and murder a whole bunch of people, but it's not something that anybody's really like any culture is teaching their kids to do. And there's just as many white rapists as there are Latino and black and Asian. There's probably, not to be racist, but there probably are less Asians doing that because they are kind of tiny. Now, I mean, if the guy is a big guy and muscle, then yeah, I guess. But some of these women in America would surprise them. But I just don't. I think culturally, Asian people are more, I don't want to bring shame to my family. And this is a big thing in a lot of immigrant cultures, is that you don't want to shame your family. Anything that you do shames your family or is something you do to make your family proud. Your accomplishments are the family's accomplishments. Your crimes are the family's crimes. And, that's something that Americans really don't get. And they need to understand that before they go judging these people. Because their moral codes a lot of times are stricter than ours. But we don't have a choice of where we're born. We don't have a choice of what life throws at us to, whether you're going to lose a leg due to some shit going on in your country, flee, I told my friend, I said, what if you found out you got a job in Canada, but you have to have $27,000 before you can go. You have to have that money. And, it's going to take you, because you still got to live here. So whatever you make, you can only put so much aside. How long is it going to take you to save that $27,000? You can't just wake up one morning and say, well, that's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go take that job. No, you have to earn that money. And depending on what your job is, say that you are working at McDonald's, it's going to take you longer than a lawyer to get that money together to go. And it's the same way with other immigrants. When you're making $2 a day, how the hell are you going to save up thousands to get out? Because we all know when we're trying to save up money for something, you blow a tire. You have to replace some floors in your house. The kids need braces. You break something and you lose your job. So you got to live on what you've saved up. But we live here already. We've already got this opportunity because we were blessed to be born here. So really, don't look at immigrants as a whole. Because if you look at it as a whole, yeah, there's going to be bad people. There's always bad people. There's bad people here. There's bad people everywhere. So in a group of 100, there's going to be at least one bad person. There's going to be at least one person that's going to come here and commit a crime other than being here illegally. No, you have to judge each person individually. You know, that's how we're supposed to judge everybody. People say don't judge, but you judge. We all judge. We'll decide somebody's not our friend. That's a judgment to say, I'm not going to hang out with that guy. You're judging them as not being fun or being a bad influence or being crazy or whatever your reason is. You have judged them. I don't like people saying none should get through or very few or so, all these other arguments. It's like judge person by person. How can you hate a whole group of people? How can you feel like they're less than you? That's never made any sense to me, is how you can feel like somebody is less than you when you don't even know them. How can you treat somebody like they're not even human? Like they won't bleed if you cut them. Like there's some kind of alien. I mean, we even call them aliens, you know? And what would we do to an alien? I mean, I don't know about Area 51, but I know I'm 100% sure that if we found alien life, our government would dissect it and kill it. I mean, it would die because our government, and I mean, it would be all in the name of science, you know, with disregard to it being a life form. And some people are treating immigrants like they're less than a dog, and it's like, that's a human being. And that's beyond wrong to judge somebody from where they were born. My Nigerian friend, when I first met him, I was like, okay, when's he going to try to tell me that he needs money to help that he's a prince or something, like when's he going to run some con on me? But I gave him a shot anyway. I didn't care that it said he was from Nigeria. I didn't, because I was like, I'll just go into this. I will talk to him, and 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 I have a decent relationship with him as far as, I'll give him advice, and he always lets me know that there's somebody out there who thought about me today at this moment when he texts me, when he sends me a message, and he always says, how are you today? He always asks if I've had supper. And if I say no, he always says, you need to go eat, eat something. Don't let yourself, if you don't eat something, you're going to faint. So this is somebody who's actually concerned about my well-being, and then in turn, I give him advice. Now, I don't approach him like I don't ever pick up my phone and say, I'm going to send I don't really do that with anybody, because I don't want to be bugging them, because like I know sometimes I'm in the middle of doing something and I'm like, ugh, who is sending me a message on Messenger? I am busy. And then, look, and certain people, it's like, okay. So I don't want to be that person. I'm always afraid I'm going to be that person. So I don't call people up unless I am specifically like I'm heading over there. I've got something to offer them. I want to know if they want something, wish them a happy birthday, that kind of thing. Like when I have a very specific reason for calling them, like to make sure that they're home, then I'll do it. But otherwise, I don't do that just to like check on them, It's just not me. I don't want to be that person who always calls at the wrong time. We've all got one of those. Picks the worst time to call. So, as a people, we really need to look at everybody as an individual and see them as a human being, regardless of whether they're born here, whether they're in prison. That's still a human being And they still deserve at least, a modicum of respect. Just to be like, you know what? I'm not I'm not going to get in their face and treat them like shit. If they're nice, I'll be nice. I mean, it's a pretty simple thing. Give somebody a chance. You can be on guard. You could sit there and think, okay, I'm ready to run if something pops off, or whatever. And I'm not saying you just walk up to people and say, hi. No, leave that up to the extroverts. The extroverts will always do that kind of thing. And then when they're good with that person, they introduce you to that person. All you introverts like me. But if somebody talks to me, I talk to them. And I won't sit there and say, I really ain't got time to talk to you, you fucking meth addict. No, I don't do that. I don't do that at all. I might think it, but I'm going to stand there and talk to them as long as they're talking to me, regardless of how perturbed I am by it. Now, if I will admit, if somebody's got like a serious BO problem, I will quickly try to find a way out, because I mean, I seriously cannot stand that. It's like, hey, deodorant is cheap. Soap is cheap. There is no reason to smell like you slept in a kennel. Or not even a kennel, like you slept in a hobo's train car with 6 wild dogs, and you're wearing clothes you've been wearing for 10 days and you ain't homeless. I mean, if you're homeless, that's acceptable. But, ugh. Anyway, that's what I'm going to say about that. Let's try being human, okay? And remember that we occupy this whole earth with other human beings, and they are not beneath us. They are equals as far as human. Have a good night.